Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing some food photography again, but not just any food photography. We're going to be specifically looking at flat lay food photography. That is the most commonly used angle. Check out these pancakes. Makes you just want to dig right into them. They look so good. I got some tips and tricks for you, composition, lighting, props, all that wonderful stuff. We're going to get into, we're going to up your game. You're going to be able to create some better flat lays. Let's get into it. Lay flat food photography, top down. I love that look. You could be very creative with it. You can do so much with it. And we're going to go over all the little details with it. Now, our subject for today is going to be apples. Look at this cold, crisp, beautiful apple. Look at the patterning. Look at the detailing on that. It's going to be absolutely amazing. I got a bunch of them, and we're going to create a warm fall baking type feel to the images. So our setup, before we get into that, I'm going to put a link down below to a video I did previous on all the equipment you need and how everything all hooks up and how you can do everything. It's a companion video to this one, so go and check it out. It'll help you out, especially during this one, because I'm not going to go over all that detailing. But I will show you how I connected my camera, and it's attached to a C-stand to a boom arm, and you can see I'm using a super clamp. Then there's a spigot inside, which then attaches to the ball head off my tripod, and then my camera is connected to the quick release. So that's how the camera is connected up top. You can see the cable running along the top there. You can use it for connecting to a display monitor, or you can shoot tethered. That's the little setup for this. You can see my light in the back. It's about a 45-degree angle, great big softbox, double diffused, and it's giving some backlight to help create that natural light look that I'm going for. The table, wood surface, help keep that warm tone going, and you see the apples, and we've got a little bit of propping going on. That's the basic setup for this lay flat shoot. Now the first thing we're going to look at is composition. And the first one that we're going to look at within composition is the diagonal. Now here's an example of a diagonal setup for composition. Now it doesn't matter if you're going from one direction to the other. It's what pleases you. Now, most people say people read left to right, so you always tend to want to have your main light on the right side with it going from top right to bottom left. That depends on you. Rules are made to be broken. It's best to understand the rule first, but that diagonal setup looks so good on the lay flat food photography. Now, the next setup we've got is a C-shaped composition. So I've just rearranged my items and I've created that C shape. Now this works so well because you can actually, within the empty dead space, negative space, copy space of the C, you can actually put a bit of text in if you want. So this is another commonly used design. You can see the C-shaped pattern to it. Now our next one, since I talked about negative space and copy space, is a setup like this. You can see how all the food and everything is off to the right, but I've got all this dead negative space on the left, which absolutely allows me to put in text, the same as the thumbnail for this video. It gives you that space to put a recipe in, to put whatever you want. So that's your three compositions that work so well for flat lays, and that's your diagonal, your C-shape, and your negative fill or copy space. That's it for composition. It's that easy. Now we're talking about the world of propping, and you want to keep them fairly simple. You don't want to go overboard in the world of propping, because then you're taking away from the subject. And our subject is apples. So you can see here, I've got some little wooden bowls, keeps that organic feel going, and they have food ingredients that go with it. Brown sugar, some flour, some oats. Look at that green napkin. Look at the texture and the patterning on that. It all blends and goes so beautifully well together on that wood surface. Now look at cutting boards. That old paring knife that looks so worn and loved and used by grandma in the kitchen. And I got little baking dishes, I got a tray, so you can see how all the propping will relate to exactly what we're doing. Now, I had said about the organic feel of the image, and a big part of that is texture. Texture plays such a key part in food photography. Now, if I just have my apples and everything sitting there, it looks fantastic. But what if I take some of those oats and just kind of sprinkle it around, make it a little more messy, put in some baking dishes or whatever, and change it up? And you can see how those bits of oats on there gives it a bit more of a home style, a little more of an organic textural look to the image. Now, you can go even further than that. You can add bits of string and rope, whatever complements with your image. Here, I use some bits of straw to add in to kind of really bring in that like old farmhouse type feel to the image. So you can play with other things that aren't food but will relate to it to bring some texture and some quality stuff into your images. You can also add some little blocks and some layering into it to create a little more height and a little depth in there, and it makes it a little bit more interesting as well. And now, continuing kind of almost in the world of props, we've got another thing that we can use to really bring a big impact into the images. Ba-ba! Hands. What if we bring in the human element to these scenes? I mean, the pictures that I've showed you look fantastic, in my opinion. But what happens if we add in some hands like this? Look at how that human element brings in and totally changes up that image. I think that looks awesome. Having the hands putting in there, having some actions. It looks really good. And if your hands are up higher away from the table, you're going to create some interesting shadowing with it on the food and everything that's displayed below. But I think introducing the human element can really up your game in a lot of cases. Now, I did mention about some layers and some blocks and things, but let's take it to a whole new level. Check this out. I've got a big vase, it's about 12 inches tall, and I got a small cutting board on top. I got the apple and the knife on there, but from a top-down view, check this out. That gives you a whole new perspective. All the complementing food and everything else is all out of focus. You can tell what everything is, but you can definitely tell what the main subject is, and that's that apple and that old-fashioned knife, and it helps tell a story. You can vary the height of it. What about using something like this? Look, I'm using a can of pop and I'm putting it on. And it totally changes the appearance. You can get very creative by adding some layers. Now, say I had a bit of an apple pie there. I could sprinkle some of the oats and everything all on the table and some of the ingredients, make it kind of mess like you just finished kind of putting it all together at baking, and they'd be slightly out of focus. Now, when you're shooting this type stuff, I tend to shoot at about f4 because I want everything else below out of focus. Now, that will vary depending on how high you are off the table from your complementing items, one might say. So depending on the height that you are, you have to vary. But I tend to shoot at about f4. Now, when I'm shooting the normal lay flat stuff, I tend to shoot at about f16. That way I've got the focus from the top of the apple all the way down to the tabletop, and that's what I want. But if I'm shooting where I'm kind of putting and tucking some stuff underneath, then I tend to shoot at about f4. Now with those blocks, I could have, not just on that, I could have had a wooden block underneath and a different block on top, and I could have shown part of the block. So if I was doing a product shot and I had like a small box with the items in, it could be on another box. So that box is on that box, if you know what I mean. So I've got two boxes, but I can actually show part of the other box, which adds to it and creates an interesting image within the composition. So there's so many different ways you can get creative by adding blocks and layers. It could be a pack of cards, it could be coaster, it could be anything that you want that'll add to the scene. I mean, I've got a cutting block here. Put the food on. Now, it's not a huge surface, but you can see how it changes it up and creates a bit more of a level to it. So, well, that's it for this one. We've gone over a bunch of little details on this. Don't forget to check out that other video. It'll go over all the other little nuances of the equipment side of the house. But as I say, that's it for this one. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Hit that bell notification so you're aware when I post new videos like this. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. So, until the next time.